Hi, my name is Mr. Mitchell, and I am one of the physical science teachers at Coosa High School. We have put together this little slideshow and videos about the math that is involved in physical science. Now, the entire physical science course is not filled with math, but it does have a little bit of math. And you know, there are students who have trouble with the math sometimes. So we decided to go ahead and make some videos that are just about the math and give you practice with the math. So maybe whenever you are applying them in school, in class, that you'll be able to do them better because you've had this video or these videos. Now let me show you what the math in physical science will include. We have four things. One is using formulas and units. Yes, there are formulas in physical science, and you'll need to be able to take the data or the measurements that you get from the science and be able to put them in the formulas and to put them in with the right units. And sometimes units can mess you up, and it seems like a small thing, but we don't want it to mess you up. We want you to be able to put the units every single time and understand what this unit is and what that is. Which brings us to the next concept, is something called literal equations. Now you may or may not have ever heard of that term, but basically it's taking a formula. For example, one of our formulas in physical science is F equals ma. That's force equals mass times acceleration. Sometimes you are given data for two of these three things, but it's not the two that you expect. You expect to be given something for mass and something for acceleration. You multiply them together and you get the force. But sometimes you may be given the force and the mass. And you have to be able to take this formula and end up with the formula over here because you don't have acceleration. And you have the literal equations are changing one formula to the next to be able to put the correct value in there. And that's what literal equations are. And we should have a separate video for formulas and units and a separate video for literal equations so you can practice what you are weakest at. A third video will be on conversions. Now you have done this before, changing, for example, millimeters to centimeters or centimeters to meters. You've probably worked a lot with the metric scale before. But in physical science you will have measurements or data that's not always in the metric scale and it's not always in the standard unit. So, for example, if you're talking about a car or if you're talking about a plane or if you're talking about something that moves fast, you're probably using miles per hour, whereas the standard unit is meters per second. So this particular video will talk about how you can go from miles per hour, how you can convert it from miles per hour to meters per second, and several other conversions. And there's a way that seems easy when you are just working with the metric system, but once you start getting out of the metric system or you start using two different values, that's when it kind of gets a little hard. So these conversions will be talked about in this particular video, and I hope this will be a very helpful video for you. Scientific notation and significant figures will be the last one. Sometimes in physical science you deal with really, really big numbers. So those really, really big numbers or even really, really small numbers can be put in what's called scientific notation. And the scientific notation can be kind of problematic if you're putting them in formulas and you're multiplying or dividing with these huge numbers. So scientific notation will show you will be the easy way in which to deal with those numbers and still get accurate figures. And there's a term called significant figures. Sometimes when you have big numbers and small numbers, the accuracy is not as good depending on how many figures you have in it. So just kind of trust me, the significant figures will help in the accuracy in using these very large numbers. Now our hope is that you can have these videos as reference or to even look at before we start our units, so that way you can have some practice in this math. So That way, your understanding of science is not hindered by the fact that you may be struggling in some of the math. And after the fact, if you have a unit and you find that you're just not getting these conversions right, hopefully you can go back and watch this video and go back and do the practice, and maybe that'll help you with that. We don't want your math to hinder your understanding in science. We want it to complement your understanding in science, and it will help you make your understanding of science even better. Hey, I hope this has been an informative video, and I look forward to talking to you in the other videos.